Hi, I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and this is another episode of Living Enlightened Every Day. And today I am so excited to introduce you to Dr. Laura Topper. And she will share with us the transformational practices that she used to move her from homeless and broke in 2020 to liberation and living her dream in 2023. Stay tuned. So today we're exploring Living Enlightened with Reverend Dr. Laura Topper, who is an author, a creative director, and a woman of power. She has her website, lauratopper.com. You'll see that on the screen. She has a book, Dream Big, Expect Miracles Now. And that's a grab. I've gotten to look at that. It's wonderful. She has a podcast, The Woman of Power Show with Laura Topper. And I was a guest a few weeks ago. It was awesome. I'll put that in the show notes. And she has a new addition to her ever expanding world of creativity. She has an e-magazine called The Divine CEO. Welcome, Laura. I'm so excited to have you here because we had such a good time on your show last week or 2 weeks, and we just had more to talk about. So we're going to talk about the book for sure and some of your other ventures, of course, but I'd like to start asking my guests, what do you do to live enlightened every day? And when I ask that, it's the emphasis for me is always on the everyday, the everyday practices, because we all know that life can seem to get in the way of our beingness, our being in peace or in love or in joy and creativity. So we tend to fall back on those practices or principles or things that we do to bring us back to center and to the truth of who we are.
Wow, that's such a beautiful question. And thank you for inviting me here, Reverend Dr. Elizabeth, to your show. I'm really excited. I'm excited to be here and sharing with you again and co-creating on your beautiful show. And that really is a powerful question because I think what comes to mind for me is grounding in the morning. Is I know if I wake up quite early and that's intentional. I want to wake up and get up early and to have my, to be in line with my spiritual practice and exercise and writing and things that I consider to be that kind of sacred fuel, rocket fuel for first thing. And I know when I don't do it, how it can affect me. It can unground me because you're right, we have so many things going on in the day and it's easy to be pulled in different directions and distracted, especially working online as I do. It can be very tempting to kind of just, oh, I'll do this and I'll do that, and it's really taking me off course. So I know that when I do that in the morning, that it gives me a foundation for tuning in during the day also. So I think I like to look at all of life as a spiritual practice. That's
Yes.
a whole every moment by moment. And sometimes I can turbocharge it and really go for it and be very, very intentional with I'm going to sit and I'm going to practice this practice or I could be less kind of intentional about it and yet be on a nature or go by the sea. The sea is just like 30 seconds away from here. I can go for a walk and really embody the oneness of nature, which I do every day, and feel the presence of the divine in the clouds and the horizon and the sea. So I think it's grounding first thing and then really finding reasons in the day of why not to tune in with nature or tune in with those simple things, even if I'm like at home and there's, looking at a flower at home that might be, or a plant, and just realizing the nature that's here, looking out the window, even at the sky.
Yeah.
Simple things. It doesn't mean having to go anywhere, literally, to remain in that knowing of the connection of who I am. And then when I'm distracted in the day, or when things happen that take me off course, which they do, I can more easily bring myself back, return to that place, and not allow myself to get into a place of stress or worry or anxiety.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful. Yes. I love that. I just even love the words that you used, grounding,
Yeah.
grounding. And there's something about that because I tend to think, it's like this idea of spirit, mind, and body and kind of being grounded into the earth, but creatively really free. So it's almost multi-dimensionally, grounding and free and all of that.
Yeah.
And I love that you said that. That's beautiful. Maybe you can share uh, some of that practice with us, but it leads me into the next question of when you were homeless and in 2020, and know you must have been really doing these practices and something inspiring you to move you to where you are now, which is it's not a lot of time, but it was a lot to do. I mean, to physically be homeless and to be living your dreams in 2023. I just think it's
Mm.
amazing. And your energy and your creative spirit are so beautiful. So how
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was a very it was a fascinating experience, and now looking back, I know the learning from it. I realize what that, why that learning needed to happen for me, and the growth, I'd say, needed to happen for me to under to or to know, to realize a few things about who I am and who God is, and how resourceful I am,
Mm,
really. How resourceful we all are under these situations where life pulls the rug, and and yet I know nothing happened. It doesn't happen. It happened for me incrementally. So it wasn't that one day everything was amazing and the next day it wasn't. I know it happened over a period of time where I could see that things were changing, circumstances in my family were changing, and it came to that place where, okay, now I'm home challenged, and then to now I'm homeless, and where am I going to live? And it was on a call one day when, because I was with Jason at that time, and it was in the midst of COVID, although it wasn't because of COVID, because there were things going on in my life that perpetuated for that to happen, for my home to be, really kind of like no home. So COVID exacerbated it, because that's when the whole world was, well, we can't just rent or Airbnb, or everything was locked down, and businesses weren't running in the same way. So I never really liked living where I lived. I never enjoyed it. And I would often say, I don't like living here. I was born in this city, and I'm living here now, and I don't resonate with it. I traveled a lot in my life, and I was living there back in where I was born, and it never fed my soul. And I kept saying it. I kept saying it to Jason. I kept saying it to, people. I don't like living here. And that's when life kind of moved me with Jason, to here where we are now, which is really amazing. Where but when we landed here, yes, I was living in a homeless shelter, and I was doing these practices. I was grounding myself every morning. I've been doing that for years, and I was practicing, spiritual mind treatment, and as a practitioner, I was putting into practice everything that I knew. And so I don't look at myself and think, wow, I wasn't doing well enough, or I haven't done enough, or I don't know who I am as the divine, or I'm not opening. I see it as this experience happens so that I could realize, so that I could tap into more of me,
Mm,
and to be more resilient, and to be more resourceful, and to have more compassion for myself and for others, and to live from that place of non-judgment. Because in that kind of situation, we have a choice. I had a choice to either hate it and resist it and not want to be there, which of course, in a way, I didn't, or to actually go further than that and say, yeah, this too is God expressing all of it. And to learn more deeply that if I'm in that place of non judgment, then the situation will move, shift. It does change, and it did, because I put the practices into practice in a greater way, in a more expanded way, and it taught me a lot. And Elizabeth, I've always been that kind of person to move around, and I've always been like that, and I've always kind of been okay with giving stuff away and starting again, and starting a home again, and being light. But this time it was like, okay, I have 8 bags of things, and Jason had. Well, we didn't live together in the beginning, but anyway, we had very little in terms of material stuff, and I like living like that through choice, because I then feel that I'm not reliant on material things to feel and know the fulfillment of who I am. And I practice that now. I wouldn't say I'm a minimalist. However, I would say I don't just need things for the sake of it.
mm,
And I feel good. It feels good. I feel unburdened with that attitude. So, yeah, it taught me many, many things. And it taught me compassion and knowing oneness and non judgment. And it allowed me to go really deep into shadow work, to
mm,
do the work that I might have been running from for a while. And I did that. And through doing that, um, amazing healings happened with me and my daughter,
mm.
you know,
Wow.
that I would have thought were unexpected. It would have, in the material world, it would have looked like, wow, this is a miracle that this has happened. And yet I know, because of the practices and what I was sharing in the book and other things that I was doing, and forgiveness work, intentional forgiveness work for myself, that, and her and others, that shifted something within the realm of our relationship, and there was amazing healing that happened. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's a lot. That's beautiful.
I wouldn't say, oh my gosh, it was the best experience for me. However, it was. If
I
you know,
do. I
yeah.
know what you mean, and just so people listening understand, I think all of us, when we set an intention, let me know if you would agree with this, Laura. If when we set an intention, sometimes spiritually we think, I'm so clear, and this is the intention, and this is the intuition, this is the divine inspiration coming through me, that this is going to happen, or that's going to, we're moving forward with this intention to be self-realized or awakened, or you're doing spiritual practices. And I know for you, as it was for me, it was very important in your life. You were doing, I think, ministerial studies during
Yeah.
that time as well. So you're studying to become a minister. So that, again, the intention is so strong to be in, spirit, mind, and body, to do that
Mhm.
full integration. And when we set that intention, sometimes it's like, that's what you want? Is that what you really want? Because the things that are in your way are just gonna come right up to your face.
Yes.
You're thinking, wait
Yeah.
a minute, I worked on this before. I've done forgiveness work. I've done, gratitude. I've done, but those things, the things that we have pushed down maybe since we were a child, the things that are running in the background, the subconscious, if you want to call it, the collective consciousness of our families or our histories,
Mm,
it's like they just come up and they say, please, you are doing this. You've committed to this. Cleanse me. You've stuffed me for too long.
yeah.
And that's, as you said, forgiveness work, gratitude work, just self forgiveness, having things come up that in our I think our ego's efforts to protect us, to say, I don't want to feel bad as a child or a young adult or an older adult. I
Yeah.
don't wanna feel that. I don't want to feel bad. And so instead of embracing it, we resist it and we just push it down.
Push it down.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I know those things will come up and they'll come up in a way that they're not avoidable. Like, we can't push them down anymore because we've set the intention to,
Yes.
and I hate to use the word overcome, but absolutely, it's like California or bust. It's like
Yeah.
self-realization or bust, and then they go, "Okay, this is what you asked for." And spirit as self just comes up and says, "This is here to be healed, and this is here to be healed." And so that's just
It's so true. And I feel that like my a great learning through this experience was deeper surrender.
mm,
Surrender of emotionally, physically, from material stuff, from thinking I need material. I mean, of course we all need, and
of
we love
course.
lovely things. I'm really not, saying living in a cave with kind of that's not where I'm coming from. It's
No,
just,
I don't, yeah,
it's and I love money and prosperity, and I think this is all really important. It's having this balance, and for me, learning that that I don't need it. I don't need to have these things that I think I want to make my life better. That the need is to go in a way inwards, to remain in that knowing of the connection of who I am. And that's the richness, that's prosperity. And I feel that the what you were just talking about, and that really can I was just really connecting the dots, if you were. It's like that's living enlightened, doing this, being prepared to do the gritty work, to really, because it's not all unicorns, angels. I mean, angels it is, but it's not all rainbows and flowers. It's there's when we have that intention, when we have the calling and the knowing and the mandate, especially if we know that we want to make changes for our own lives and to help other people and support other people. um, there's layers of stuff that it's like being in an initiation in a way, saying, right, okay, I'm going to address this and I'm going to address this, and then whoa, okay, now you mean I'm going to address this? Okay. So it's being willing to say yes to doing that difficult, the difficult, because it's not always easy to face it within myself and to say, right, okay, I'm gonna do this piece of work now, and there are going to be some hard truths in myself to go through and to realize and to accept and to forgive. um and I think that is all a part of the course of enlightened living.
absolutely. I haven't really talked much about it in my podcast yet, and I don't talk about it in my book because most of the book was written in a different way. But for me, that was when my son was experiencing illness. Like,
Wow.
it was so, it was a lot of hospitalization and residential treatment facilities, doctors, insurance,
Mm,
just being with him, seeing him so distraught and in pain, and it was like every day I had to, uh, like I had gotten to the point where I didn't have to do practices is how I'll say it. You described that earlier when you were talking about like some days you don't we don't have to have an intentional practice because we're living it. Life is flowing. We feel like we're in this flow. There's no resistance. There's
Yes.
no otherness. There's no judgment or comparisons. It's just it does feel a little like rainbows and unicorns, you know.
Yeah.
And knowing that life is change, seasons change, things change, everything change, everyone changes. As my son brought up this for him, he was experiencing this illness that was so challenging for himself and his health and well-being, and me as a caregiver, and like I said, all the things that are attached to that. Every day I felt like it was sticking to me, like,
Hmm.
all the negativity, all the thoughts, all the "You can't do this, insurance won't pay for that, that won't happen," or "You can't get in to see this person," it was like everything was sticking to me because and I would know because I'm like, "No, not now. I can't deal with this now. I can't handle this now," or, the resistant thoughts or the judgments or the comparisons, the blame, I would
Right.
love to
Yeah.
have found someone to blame at that point, but that wasn't gonna happen. So I had to do that work every day. I had to let it go every day so that I
Yeah.
was experiencing what you were saying is more surrender to what is. This is
Yeah.
life showing up right now.
Yeah.
And can I, because that was well before my living enlightened, and it's like that happened afterwards, after the big intention, after the living enlightened, that feeling of connectivity and oneness and wholeness, and then this shatters me into
Yeah.
wanting separation and not understanding, not having clarity, not having enough money, not having
Yeah.
enough resources to take care of this by myself. It was like all the things, and it was just continuing and then I had to go back to practices, back
Hmm.
to what I knew, and find new things. Actually
Yeah.
found new things during that time, which I
I'm
was so
sure.
grateful for. But it's that I just believe in my heart that setting the intention to live that way is more important than anything that can say no.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I had to keep reminding myself, and it was a reminder because for me, when I was seeing what I didn't want to see, and when I was hearing what I didn't want to hear, and it would have been very easy for me to say, okay, this is it, and this is it. And I knew on a deeper level that everything is change, everything's in flux, everything's in flow. And how I seed into that is my responsibility. So if I'm going to be down on myself every day, then that's what I'm going to experience. So I was I knew that this situation does not define me. It's not defining who I am. It's
Yeah.
not defining the truth of me. I have a laptop. I have Wi-Fi. There's a small table here. We have a bed and a mattress. We have a shower, and it's all good. I can do things online. I can do what I need to do. I don't need to make any excuses to myself that I can't do it because I haven't got the bare minimum of what's necessary. And it is amazing how things showed up that were supporting that attitude, supporting my knowing, not just an attitude, my knowing at that time, to inspire me to to create my podcast, to do shows, to be with the network, to do all sorts of things. It didn't stop me from meeting amazing people in spiritual community and having amazing friends and all of that stuff. And then what happened is a call came 6 months after that being there. A call came saying, "We have a home for you if you want," from the local authority, because mm, Jason had also intentionally, done the work. We were doing the work daily, regularly. We had gratitude lists pinned to the walls, like hundreds and hundreds. What are we grateful for this week? And we would just write it out and pin these big lists to the walls. And it was because I knew I've got a choice in this moment. I can, like as you were saying, it's very easy to slip into the victim of the circumstance, or to know that God is here. I'm God expressing, and God is here. God is my source.
Mm.
So these teachings are so powerful, and I think it's good to use these teachings when we're on a high and things are going well in our lives. And yet it's more powerful when things aren't going the way we to really test and prove them to ourselves.
Yeah.
And they do work. They do
Oh,
work.
yes. Absolutely.
They
Well,
really work.
and that's what I was saying, I almost say it I guess I say it every time, sounds like, but it's like no one would want to be self-realized or awakened or enlightened or all the words that we use to
Mm,
describe this sort of complete integration of spirit, mind, and body, of knowing the truth of our being. No one would want to know that if it didn't bring, and I'll just say, a greater joy. It is
mm,
the joy that doesn't come and go because of experience. It
yes.
didn't bring a greater peace. It is the peace that is beyond all understanding, because it isn't a peace that the mind can comprehend. It's our birthright, our natural state of being is peace and joy. And I'll say, and it's abundance. It's the idea that source and supply are one. And when we are knowing the truth of our being, we feel life coming through us, not at us, not to
Mm,
us. It's like life is living as me, and drawing unto, this being, Elizabeth, what I say that I need or want, which is anything that stands in the way of my knowing who I am. So we're
yeah.
going to get some stuff, but it's knowing the peace, knowing the love and the joy and the abundance that we already are. And to know that no matter what is, it's, it's, when you know that, nothing else can get to you. The
No.
diagnosis can't get to you. Being homeless can't get to you. Having a child who's sick and you feel like you cannot help them can't, it can't take away who you are, but it can bring those resources that you need to deal with life on life's terms. It
Yeah.
brings everything together. And then I just love that you have this sense of, I often don't really even like this word, but I'm going to use it, overcoming, because
Mm,
it's this idea that we're just not victims. We're participating and co-creating, and we co-create something that most people are going to say is negative or bad, or why would you let that happen? How could you let that happen? And then we're like, I think life is living itself, and this is what's happening.
yeah.
And we're saying, yes, even this is God, the spirit, life showing up as my son experiencing, extreme illness, my finances and the situation in COVID happening, the diagnosis that no one could have guessed was coming, all these things.
Yeah.
And but we get to live still in peace, still in love, still in joy and gratitude, and even more. Right? Don't you think you took it to another
Oh
level?
my God. Yes. Because it was for me, Elizabeth, I had an experience in 2012 in the labyrinth when I walked a labyrinth on a training that I was on. And I walked the labyrinth and my whole life changed. It was a full blown epiphany awakening that completely took me to it shattered the paradigm that I was in, and I knew God as I was. It was a mystical experience that happened. And when that happened, my life was, things were okay in terms of the physicality of, health, wealth, relationships. it was like there was a harmony there. And this happened for me, and I realized God in that experience, and that kind of was my driver really for wanting to understand logically what had happened. And that set me into discovering science of mind in the UK, and taking part in those foundational classes of becoming a practitioner. And then I still had more questions. It was like, okay, I need to learn, I want to learn, understand more. So I went into ministerial, and that was like, it was the most amazing thing that happened for me. And it took me 2 years to talk about that experience, but it
Wow.
really changed my whole outlook. It changed my life.
Mm.
So there I knew that there was something different. There's something else, something greater, something immense that is running the whole show. And then when in 2020, when that homelessness experience happened, it's like, I suppose I feel that I was needing to experience God without the glamour.
Wow.
That was it. Do you know what I mean? Without the kind of, oh, I'm enlightened, kind of like, oh, now I'm enlightened. Oh, now I'm enlightened. Okay.
Even now, I mean,
Even now, even in this situation where, it was pretty intense stuff that was happening in there. So it was a harmonizing for me, that experience, because it let me see that God is in the stuff that it's in the rubbish, it's in the bins. God is everywhere. It's not only in the sunsets and the sea here now, and the beauty that I think is beauty. It's all beauty. And it
yes,
let me see that when I remove judgment from what I think is good or not good, or beautiful or not beautiful, and when I can see that it is all beautiful, even the horrific things that are happening in the world, I'm not going to say they're beautiful from a human perspective. It's horrific. The things, when I read the papers and see the stuff that's going on, it's like, how can human beings behave like this towards themselves and each other? It's beyond my comprehension.
yeah,
And I would never say that that's beautiful. And yet I know underlying all of this, there is a beauty, which is God. That
yes,
underlying all of it, there is something I can tap into to say, well, and this can change. We can change. I can make a change. I can use this power to make a difference for my life and the way I see it and the way I behave and the way I heal and forgive. So that there comes the piece of, oh, well, being responsible, taking self responsibility.
yes. That's a that's a big one.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's well, and that I talk about that a lot too. It's this idea that being 100% responsible, and a lot of times we're like, yeah, but not now.
Mm.
I'll be responsible for that later, but right now I'm too busy or I got to do, and again, for me, it just feels like not now. I'll deal with that later. I'll just squish it down here and deal with it later, and it will come and rear its ugly head if
Yeah.
I'm not being 100% responsible. And the truth is, we're not living our life when we're not 100% responsible. We're living the idea that of what we think we should be doing. And it's
Yeah.
never, for me, it's never fulfilling. It's never satisfying, which I guess I can see other people too when they get all those things, the promotion or the car or
Mm.
the big house on the hill and whatever it is, and they're still not happy. They
Mm.
know that they're not it's obviously not working for them either because
Right.
they wouldn't be so miserable in their giant mansion on the hill, and driving their new Ferrari. And so it's when we if we and not everybody has to obviously, and the way life shows up for each of us to deal and be responsible with anything that we have shoved down or not accepted about ourselves, then when that comes up, it's like to be responsible now, like, okay, it
Mm.
showed up again, and if I'm retracting and if I'm resisting or judging or comparing or any of those things, or if I'm attached over here to the way things are,
Yeah.
just another form of resistance, then I can't experience myself, my
Yeah.
being, who the truth of who I am, and it's all just locked in together. That victim mode.
Mm.
This is still happening to me. Well, it's still happening to me because I said later. I'll deal with it later. So
Right.
I'll back up later. Hello. So being responsible now, once we get it to a manageable place, and where you feel like there is a little bit of flow, there's something happening. I mean, Maslow's law is, I'm all about that, having, the roof over our head and certain things taken care of, but at the same time, how you described, you have a laptop, you have a bed, you have
Yeah.
showers, and it's like, wow, there's so much I can do with just this. There's
Yeah.
a bed, and there's a shower, like Maslow's law, and now I can be who I am in this minute with no resistance and allow love and joy and peace to continue to show up in my life while this is happening.
Totally, totally, Reverend Elizabeth. I was not going to let it define my decisions in the day.
Mm.
I was not going to let it. I would go out, we would go on lovely walk, really lovely walks here just by the sea, come back, make some food, and things started showing up. It was just little things that were, no, okay, they may just like little, well, they were, at the time, it was like, this is significant. Like one day, the light bulb went in the shower and it was quite dark in there because there wasn't a window. And we didn't have the money to buy a light bulb. But what happened was we just, somebody left a new light bulb in the hallway the same day. They left a new light bulb in the hallway. So things like that would start to happen. And we'd be like, oh my gosh, we're so grateful for this light bulb that's shown up. Didn't even
Wow.
have to ask anyone, and there's a light bulb there in the
See,
hallway,
that's
just
amazing.
waiting to be used. So, and things like that started happening, and then it kind of escalated and it changed from light bulbs to, oh, I found £20 that just popped into my bank account, or a friend would send me something, or someone, a coach that I knew online said to me, she knew kind of my situation, but she said, oh, I just want to give you a free coaching session. And I hadn't even asked her. It was just, that was the natural flow of the conversation. And things like that started happening that let me see, because I was being open and receptive to receiving without um, creating any resistance in there, being so grateful for it, that it just, things were clicking, things were changing, things happened for Jason as well. And it's what you say, what you were saying about intention at the beginning. When we have an intention, we live into that intention. My intention was to complete ministry and to help people in whatever way I'm being called to do that. And so I realized, well, this is the school I'm in at the moment. This is what I'm having to learn. And somebody said to
Yes.
me, um, being a practitioner, going through practitioner, we get to look at beliefs and to kind of go through our beliefs and, weed through the beliefs. And being in ministry education, we get to like our life blows up. It's looking at everything. It's not just the beliefs. It's like the ideologies and the concepts that we've created and the paradigm that we're in. And to kind of explode out of that. And that's what was happening.
Well, and especially when we think sometimes of how small our paradigms are, when
Yes.
we like, it's just amazing that as human beings, we we accept all the human stuff. Like we accept, oh, I'm in a frail body. I can't lift that much or carry that much or run that far or whatever these things are. And I'm a female and I do this and I can't do that. And was born here because of this, because we accept all the human stuff, and it's so tiny. It's like, oh, this, I'll accept this. It's like the little tip of the iceberg. And then all the being stuff,
Yeah.
the spiritual being stuff, we're like, no, we're not, I can't accept that part of me, that I'm, as Jesus said, ye are gods. Have you forgotten that it's
Mm,
written in your scripture, ye are gods and children of the Most
mm,
High. We're made in the image and likeness of God itself. But
yes.
not many people were telling us that. I should say, telling me that. No one told me that.
Oh, no, me.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so once we make the decision to start exploring what's underneath the tip of the iceberg, and it's God and it's good and it's unlimited and unconditional and infinite and joy and peace and beauty, it's like, gosh, who do I want to be? This little, compact entity of things that have happened to me? Do I really want
Yeah.
that as my identity, or do I want my full identity? Who am I? Really,
Yes.
taking away the things that happened to me. Those were just experiences. They happened to me.
Yes.
It's not who I am. I
Yes.
am. And then we go into the unlimited, infinite, eternal, powerful, abundant, radiant. And
Yes.
it's like,
Oh,
wow, no one told me that. But now
yeah.
that even homeless, or even under with the diagnosis, or any of those things, we're still who I am,
Yes.
divine emanation of spirit. And what's
Yes.
happening to the body, like you said, I can't call it beautiful, but I can't, there's an underlying harmony and flow to life living itself. And this is what it looks like at this time if I'm not resisting. You brought up so many good things: not resisting, surrender. We're not surrendering to something, someone, somewhere out there. It's the surrendering of the old beliefs. It's the
Totally.
surrendering. Yeah, it's including
Totally.
wholeness.
For me, I think also, yes, at that, definitely, and a surrendering of control. It
Yes.
was like, if I can just be in a place of not thinking I have to be in control of this situation, because I know there's something greater that is absolutely in control of all of it, in a divine ordered way, and I can be in the flow, the Tao. If I can be that flow, rather than trying to resist it because I think that I have the answer to this, because I'm not enjoying it and I don't like it, or it's not good enough, or it should be like this or like that. If I can surrender myself to what's happening, not, as you say, not as a victim, but as, okay, I have victory in this, because I'm letting go of the need to try and make it what I think it should be, and really understand what it truly is as God expressing as love. And if I can feel that love and be the love of it, then I know I'll be supported in a much easier way, in a
Mm.
much easier way. And I think with that, things have only got better. I keep, it's that old kind of affirmation that we use a lot, every day in every way. I think you mentioned it on every day in every way, things are getting better and better. Oh no, it was Dr. Rainbow Johnson. Every day in every way, things are getting better and better. So it's having that mindset that, yes, looking for those small wins, and that, the signs, the symbols, and that life, it can be very simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. But it's this whole idea of be more, do more, have more, that is a trap, because be more of what? Be more of God, do more of God, have more of God. That's what I prefer, that's what I know. When I'm in that place, then everything else just comes in its own way without me trying to force it. Um, I'm a more open conduit for receiving.
Oh, that is beautiful. Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
I can see that too. And oh, you said something, I wanted to hold on to it, but everything else was so good. It was,
Sorry, I just like
no,
rambled
it was
it.
just so good. But I'll just go back to just that idea of being more and having more. And it's that idea that I'll be happy when or if or and then recognizing that even in this, the body that's having its issue, or the relationship or the homelessness, whatever that is, it's like even in this there is a joy and within me. So I when we finally get that we don't need anything to be happy,
Mm.
and when we don't need time, we don't need the thing, when we can actually just be happy, I feel like the freedom to
Yeah.
express, like the inspiration comes up to pick up the phone call, or to pick up the phone call, or pick up the phone and call that person that you wouldn't, like, I don't know why I'm calling you, but you get on the phone and you find
Yeah.
out that something has shifted for them and they need your help, or you need their help, or whatever it is. Like, there's some synchronicity. And you were talking about little things happening. And when I was in full-time ministry, I just, every week I'd be like, and this happened. And I know it's a little thing, but this happened and this happened. When you have days that are filled with little things that are joyful and peaceful
Yes.
and beautiful, every
What
day.
more could you want? It's like that's amazing
And
because
they
all
are,
these
they're
little
little
things add
things.
up.
Right. And it's like if everyone could feel when you needed a light bulb, it appeared at your door, or a friend, or a phone call, or a hug,
Yeah.
those little things are the things that make living in this body so
Mm.
beautiful, because it's it's not it's so specific. Like, my dog, I get to love my dog and the neighborhood dogs and know them all by name, or whatever, whatever that thing is. Like, I get to be at the beach, someone else wants to be at the mountains, whatever,
Mm.
wherever their thoughts are. But it's the little things all through the day that just bring that joy with everything. I don't know. That's
Yeah, it's so true, and in the midst of all of it, a really dear friend of mine, Sharon, she wrote a book called The Gratitude 365,
awesome.
and she was telling me that she had this experience in, I don't know, a few years ago, and she knew that her life wasn't the way that she really wanted it to be. Anyway, she decided for 4 months to give up everything and go on a gratitude tour.
Mm.
And she just stayed with her friend, like she did a tour of staying with different friends, and
Oh, I
she
love
was on
that.
a gratitude tour, and that really helped me through that experience, that happened for me, because it was like, okay, I can really begin to see that everything is that is here is, and be grateful for it,
Wow.
rather than moaning and complaining and being in that place of victim, which I know will only perpetrate more of that experience. So that was so beautiful, going on a gratitude tour. It's like if my whole life could be a gratitude tour, that's how I would want it to be.
I love that. I think it was last week that I did a podcast on gratitude and the power of gratitude, and it has definitely shifted my life several different times. But
Yeah,
I've never heard of like a gratitude tour, so
tour.
I love I love that. Again, it's so intentional,
Yes.
and you would just see things that would come up, I think, that would challenge you to find and to be joyfully grateful in it. And why not? I mean, it's like,
Totally.
yes, I want the freedom to be grateful for everything. I want that peace in me to be grateful for
Mm,
absolutely everything.
everything.
Love that. Mm.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And I know it shifted a lot of things for me. I know it shifted my confidence as well, because I started to believe that, okay, everything that's happening, everything I can see, if I can see beauty in everything, if I can look and find beauty in every single thing throughout the day, then wow, I'm living enlightened. Yeah,
Every day.
every
Yes,
day.
yes. Because, enlightenment isn't somewhere we get to, and then everything
No.
is just peachy keen, like you said, rainbows and unicorns and flowers.
Yeah.
No, the hurricane comes. You watch the news,
Yeah,
this is happening, or someone runs into your car. I mean, if something happens and it shakes us to our core because life is moving itself. But when you
mm,
have that idea, it's moving itself for my highest good, as it has
yeah,
always done, then we actually look for the highest good in this event or in this happening. And if again, if we're looking for it, it shows itself the good and the
yeah,
grace and the beauty and the joy. If we're looking for it, because if we're looking for something else, as you were saying, if we're judging and reacting and pushing it down, it it can't show us the joy and the beauty and the grace because we're looking for not being involved, not allowing this to happen. We're looking for
yeah,
this to go away and resist and all those things.
yeah, exactly. Where attention goes, energy flows.
Yes, I've read some of your book. I haven't read all of it, but I want to say that I just love that you have some practices in there that I'm guessing kind of really moved you
Mm,
to that space where you can just expect big miracles. Expect miracles now, and like dream big and expect them to unfold. And I think you talk about that beautifully in your book. And I just want to say that I have this little quote that I pulled out that you write in your book, and it says, "The divine is a powerful presence that wants to support you. It wants you to know that you are already a success. It wants to guide you through inspiration and intuition. It wants for you to be the divine CEO, leader of light that mops the floors and
yeah.
then jumps onto a high ticket call with your team."
Yeah.
So that's for me,
Or both
that's
at the same
living
time.
enlightened. Right, that's living enlightened every day. It's like,
Yeah.
you gotta do what you gotta do whenever it's calling you to do it, and, something's a mess and the floors need mopping, and then you gotta pick up the dog poop, I gotta do this. Like, it's
Yeah.
all God, and then
It's
jump onto
all
the call.
God.
And when you show up, and so I'm going to read the rest. Your part is to say yes, to surrender to the knowing that you are loved by life just as you are. No makeup, no great fan base, no huge list. It's your faith in the infinite
Mm,
that is the magnetic factor for materializing your vision, your big dreams, and your divine assignment as your experienced reality. Miracles
yeah.
are here now, and your work is to wake up to them now and be them. And so that was just so
Wow.
inspirational. It was really beautiful. I can tell you were just so inspired when you were writing that, and
Oh, and I think if I were to add anything in now, I'd be saying, well, we can choose where we are, where we're operating from frequency wise. So the frequency that I'm choosing to be or to shine as, that's the frequency. And if I'm choosing that higher or Christ consciousness, more expanded frequency as my way of being, and making that my intention for the day or the moment as much as I can, coming back to that, where am I operating from? Am I operating from a place of judgment? Am I operating from a place of jealousy or guilt or doubt or limitation or lack? All of those lower frequencies that really don't support for expansion and for the new possibilities to come in an easy way, because we kind of hinder ourselves. So that's it. If we can check our frequency, how and the vibration that we're sending out as this kind of radio system that we
yeah,
are in and out transmitting, then that's like I can control that. I
yeah,
can control that. I might not be able to control, where I'm living in the moment, right now, in this moment, or what I'm experiencing right now. I can control how I am with life, with myself, and with knowing of God. And that, for me, that's like the most powerful thing. And we all have this ability. and we're not taught it in school.
All those years of school and not once.
And then years and decades later, it's like, oh, okay, I can learn it this way. You could have taught me when I was 5 that there's a frequency and I can be it.
I am hoping that they bring some meditation and self-realization to our schools.
Yeah.
Seeing that as this wonderful vision
Cool.
unfolding in my consciousness.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, it was just beautiful. I have just really enjoyed talking with you again, and
I'm
we,
so
I,
what a great I love being here with you. Thank you for inviting me to your
oh,
show.
you're so welcome. And I feel like we've got like 3 or 4 more episodes in here because I'm really, just want to hear more about your journey and about what you teach. And as I mentioned to listeners, that they can find, your website. It's lauratopper.com, lauratopper.com, and that'll be on the screen and in the notes. And her book, Dream
Oh,
Big,
thank you.
Expect Miracles Now, is on Amazon, and her podcast, The Women of Power Show with Laura Topper. And like I said, a new magazine, The Divine CEO.
Oh, yeah.
And I just love that you're really focusing on women and women who are really committed and making these changes in their life. And so it's showing up for them in all these different ways as them being the CEO, the divine CEO of their life. And
Yeah.
it's what you were saying, that how things show up, how people show up to support us when we have,
Yes.
that divine intention of really being our authentic self with power and presence and beauty and love, all those.
Totally. Totally. I mean, I've always worked with women. I worked with women in fashion for many years. I was in fashion and then I was in personal training and, in health. And I've always worked with women. And I realized that I love working with women. And there
Yeah.
would always be lots of conversation with women, in the fitting rooms. And it would always be about, not always about the clothes. It kind of goes into other topics and stuff. And so when I became a life coach, I realized, yeah, it's with women that this is where my calling is, because it just felt natural.
Yeah.
And now, and right now, it's kind of like, yeah, we have a big calling. I believe women, self-identified women, have a calling right now on this planet to rise, to have equal pay as a normal thing, not as
Yes.
something that we're fighting for, and to be, to stand up and be the light that we are and shine that light and not feel that we have to make any excuses for it or reasons for it, simply to be accepted as we are
Yeah.
by all. And I know that's an internal piece, because when I can accept myself, then of course that's how I'm going to see the world. So we have, there's no blame here on anybody.
No, yes, but as you were saying that, I can recall growing up, and I actually grew up in a very sexist household where
Yeah.
the boys would always be talked to and dealt with in some ways, and I was, things that were expected of me were very different. And so to have someone like you in our life that can remind us women of who we are innately, again, is that child of God, and our innate gifts and talents, whether it's being, the greatest mom or the greatest CEO or the
Sure.
greatest author or speaker, whatever that is. And it's not greatest compared to anybody, greatest for ourselves. What is the
Yeah.
greatest, you know, feeling for me now, in accomplishing this intention or this one or that one, being a mom or being a CEO or however that shows up. And it's finding our sense of power and presence and allowing that intuition and the inspiration. And you use that in your quote. I was like, to allow that to flow.
Yeah.
It's, I think we're closer to that. We're very close to that creative energy and the creative flow, the feminine force of life in a way. And just to be able to unlock that and to live in it and be it.
That we can be the loving presence. We can be that love. We can teach, we can share, we can educate um, others into, well, this is what it is to be a self-identified woman. This is what it means. And the divine feminine is in each of us. Spirit
Yeah.
is in each of us. Soul is in each of us. So we're all creating all the time, or
Mm.
we're all part of the creative process all the time. So it's how do we really take the reins here and say, yeah, I'm doing this as me for my life. And more women are now creating their own businesses and becoming, becoming that divine leader of their own lives. And that's why I feel, yes, we can do this. We can absolutely live a life where we feel that we're not dependent on anyone else to be happy. Just like with materialism, we can find that within ourselves, that joy within ourselves, and then life changes for us, and it's so liberating.
Yes.
So liberating.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, we'll end on that. Just being and feeling liberated, free,
Mm,
and inspired. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
thank you.
And as I said, all Laura's information is in the show notes. It'll be up on the screen. And I'm Elizabeth
Brilliant.
Cantey. You can find out more about me at elizabethcantey.com. And my book is Living Enlightened, The Joy of Integrating Spirit, Mind, and Body. That's on Amazon, as well as Laura's book, which is, say it again,
Dream
Laura.
big. Expect miracles now, right now, in this
Right
moment.
now, in
Right
this
now.
moment.
Yeah.
You want to know how? Just read the book. It's on Amazon.
Yeah.
And we just hope you laugh, love, and live enlightened every
Mm.
single day.